Good afternoon and welcome to this special interview. It happens every year after the ANC's January 8th. That is where the president of the ANC, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, sits down with media in South Africa. And this year is no different. Mr. President, thank you for your time and thank you for talking to us. Now, let's get straight to it, Mr. President. You've been given a new mandate by the ANC's membership. And the biggest criticism of your last term was that people say that you are indecisive and you take time, and you've also called yourself a process man. Can we now expect, now that you've got a renewed mandate, that perhaps you'll be a little bit more agile in dealing with some of the issues that afflict most South Africans?
Well, the challenges that face our country are complex, they're historic, and they're deep. Some of them are problems that are due to mistakes that have been made in the past. Some of them, as we have said, we've made missteps ourselves. And in addressing those problems, it has taken time. I mean, I remember very clearly on the issue of, for instance, dealing with corruption. I mean, I used to be badgered, I used to be attacked both in Parliament and outside, when they would say, go and arrest people and go and put them in jail. And I said, that's not my job.
Sure.
My job is to ensure that we put institutions in place, we get right people to work in those institutions, and they should then do their work.
Sure.
And they are now doing their work. We've had to take time to put the right people in place, the processes in place. They're doing their work. People are now being attended to. They're being arrested, and the process is now underway. And nobody comes to me and say, oh, this is what you were talking about.
I guess it's more in reference to your own decision-making.
No, even my own decision-making, because I have taken decisions to put those institutions right. I've taken decisions to put the right people in place, and this just does not happen out of the air. It takes somebody to decide that this is what we are going to do, this is how we are going to do. I mean, the whole process of even dealing with corruption has had to be led, and people sometimes are not even alive to that. Has had to be led, the tone has had to be set, and the resolve has had to be there to enable those people who work in those institutions to know that this is the name of the game and this is the order of things. So we are moving ahead. The problems are deep, they are complex. Unemployment, for instance, and unemployment did not start yesterday. Loadshedding did not start yesterday. All those things are being addressed. When I addressed the nation in July of last year, I did set out a number of steps that we are taking, are going to take, and we are taking those steps. And of course, when a power station breaks down and there's load shedding, people get agitated, they get angry because they want the problem to be solved yesterday. Sure. Some of the problems do take time, unfortunately.
Now, I think on an issue like Eskom, you've spoken about Eskom, you've identified it as one of the crises that we're facing as a country, but then someone might say that 2022 was the worst year in terms of load shedding. Can you confidently tell South Africans today that 2023 will be a different year, or should we expect the same?
What I can say is that we've taken decisions on how to address the challenges that Eskom is facing. And those decisions are being implemented. We did say we have got a shortage of megawatts of power that we need to get and put on the grid. And we've now opened up the opportunity for third-party generators to generate, and that is now underway. We've opened up the processes and the permits and all that. Things that were trapped in bureaucratic processes, we've unlocked that, and it is now happening. And to build a power station, be it solar, hydro, or wind, or gas, takes a long time.
So we're in for a tough ride, basically.
No.
We
I'm
must
not necessarily
expect
saying
more of the same.
No. I'm not necessarily saying we're in for a tough ride. I am saying we are addressing the problem. And what I can say is that we are not sleeping on the job. We are addressing the problem. It has a devastating impact. And that is why we identified it as one of the top priorities that the ANC-led government must attend to. That's exactly why we have identified it as that type of top priority.
Now, Mr. President, obviously there's the age-old question of Gauteng, particularly in the issue of Soweto. I know that the government has mentioned reforms in terms of e-tolls. Can we expect that there will be a resolution this year on the issue of Soweto's traditional debt and their long-standing issues with ESCOM?
Well, one of the things that, if you listen carefully when I spoke, is that we need to start and continue with a campaign of getting our people to pay for the usage of their electricity and other services. That has to be a clear message, because sometimes we expect that we will get all these things free, and it costs money. And that is part of the reason why ESCOM is now in huge debt. The debt that is owed, people would like it to be written away, written off, forget about it, and then a new debt starts building up. And we are saying, yes, we must find a way of addressing that. And
so is that an option on the table?
And I have said to our people, I have a deep sense of understanding of the challenges that our people are going through when it comes to paying for services. But at the same time, I'd like all of us to understand that services have to be paid for. So the debt that Soweto has to be addressed. We have to address that debt, and there are quite a number of options. Debt relief, debt forgiveness, but debt payment, reduction, or whatever. So all that has to be addressed. The issue of e-tolls has been on the table for a number of years, and we've now got a resolution. What is now being finalized is the agreement between the national government, Treasury particularly, and the Gauteng government on how to deal with the split of addressing that debt, because it's a huge debt that has built up. So that needs to be addressed as well.
Now, Mr. President, on the issue of organizational renewal, we've seen it before, it's back this year, but then some people will say that part of the rot that has been there historically is still very much there. The ANC national chairperson was on an ENCA a while ago and spoke specifically about Mr. Bejani Chauke, who ran your campaign in 2017, who came back this time and is a member of the NEC after contesting to be the Treasurer General. And the biggest criticism that's coming from all quarters is how he paid his way into the NEC. We have not heard you speak on that, Mr. President. What is your reaction to these allegations of the use of money by someone who's considered to be close to you, and by association, some people are saying perhaps you probably are aware of what he was doing?
Well, you know, I've raised this with the national chairperson, and I've said, what was that based on? And he hasn't given me any information on that, because sometimes it's easy to make these types of statements, and they're often made in the ANC. It's not only around these two individuals, they're often made in the ANC that there's been usage of money, and when you look at it more closely, when it comes to the real evidence, it's hard to come by. And one of the things, coming back to the renewal project that you're speaking about, one of the things that was really good and which showed a new determination in the African National Congress is how our branches were the real centers and reservoirs of the renewal process. Hold on, no, let me finish.
Sure.
So it was the branches themselves who have led the renewal process, because the renewal process has to start at the bottom there. I cannot talk it from the top.
Sure.
It has to be right at the bottom. It must evolve at the branch level. And the branches have demonstrated that indeed, at the membership level, the membership of the ANC has embraced the process of renewal. And even if anybody wanted to influence
Sure.
The mandate that was given to the branches, they would never have succeeded because they have embraced the renewal process and they will not be diverted from that. And that is why we were able to hold more than 4,000 branch general meetings that were actually
Sure.
held and where the membership of the ANC spoke out about the type of ANC that they want. So
you accept that his campaign was a clean campaign?
I reserve a lot of confidence and have a lot of confidence in the membership of the African National Congress, which cascaded upwards in terms of the decisions that were made as well at that conference. So that's to me is how the renewal process and project is unfolding in the ANC. So this is now, if you like, a new game. This is now a new process, an invigorated process, a renewed ANC that is also going to lead forward with uniting the African National Congress.
Lastly, Mr. President, I'd like to ask one question, but we're out of time. Lastly, there's a new strain of COVID-19 which has been detected in the country, and obviously there are some alarm bells that are ringing. What do you know? Do South Africans have any reason to worry about this new strain?
The National Coronavirus Command Council is meeting tomorrow. We are going to be getting a report from the Department of Health, and we are going to get scientists presenting to us, informing us precisely what we are facing now. We are agile enough to want to have that NCCC meeting tomorrow, and thereafter there will be information that will be shared with the rest of the country, because we have learned from the past pandemic, or from COVID as it started, that we've got to have a greater agility, greater ability to preempt what our reactions should be. Right now, I would say there's no need to panic. There's no need for South Africans to be alarmed. And the NCCC, the National Command Council, is going to meet and deal with this matter.
All right, that's President Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the leader of the ANC, having been re-elected at the 55th National Conference of the ANC.